When I think of my humanities moment, what looms largest for me is in 1962, my grandmother and I were about to go outside and put bird feed out on her lawn in the backyard in her garden. And as we were walking out, she said, "Terry, can you imagine a world without birdsong?" And I couldn't. And then she talked about Miss Carson, how she had been reading this book called Silent Spring. I had seen it on her bedstand. And that because of DDT and pesticides, all of the cleaning fluids that she had underneath her sink, that what she was doing in the name of trying to keep her house clean and to keep insects away, because my grandmother was fairly neurotic about those things, had consequences. Bluebirds, ospreys, brown pelicans, all the birds that my grandmother and I had fallen in love with when I was 5 years old, and she gave me a copy of Peterson's Field Guide to Western Birds. Terry, can you imagine a world without birdsong? It was such a simple question, but Miss Carson had reached right into my own heart through my beloved grandmother. And I think on that day, I became an environmentalist. On that day, even as a child, I wanted to read Silent Spring. And my grandmother that night lit candles. And I sat on her lap and she read Miss Carson's book about a small town in America where the birds were no longer. The Humanities speaks in metaphor as well as in truth. A world without birdsong. Literally a silent spring. But what I also have perceived about Rachel Carson's influence on me is that there cannot be any silence in terms of protecting this beautiful world. In other words, to speak, to question, to stand and act is also a way of stopping a silent spring. And it was Miss Carson's voice in the face of tremendous resistance from Monsanto and those from the very powerful chemical industry. She spoke with grace, with dignity, with truth and passion, and heralded in the modern day environmental movement. Miss Carson changed my life. What I also have come to appreciate about Rachel Carson is her synthesis of science and art and lyrical language, literature, and I think she really set the bar for me as one who could never reconcile my love of the sciences and the humanities. And what Rachel Carson showed us is there is no separation, that environmental issues are social issues, are economic issues, are issues of health and justice. And so I think to see the world whole, even wholly, as Miss Carson has taught us to do, also gave me not only a sense of place in my own home ground of Utah, but an ethic of place, which she outlined and illustrated and embodied for all of us. Rachel Carson writes, "It is one of the ironies of our time that while concentrating on the defense of our country against enemies from without, we should be so heedless of those who would destroy it from within." And so I think Miss Carson gives us another way of thinking about true homeland security.